Hello Taiko people, my name is Shoji Kameda and you are watching the kaDON video where I explain everything there is to know about Taiko Bachi. Let's get started. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with the kinds of wood that bachi are made out of. Actually there's sort of an endless variety, but maybe the four most common are Hinoki, then we have Ho, Maple, and Kashi, or white oak. So going from the softest to the most dense, Hinoki is the softest, most delicate wood. Ho is the next sort of heavy and dense wood. Then we have maple, and then we have Kashi. And within each of the bachi types of wood, there's a lot of variety. So for example, Hinoki, it makes the best sort of pure Shime Bachi, but it also makes really, really great Odaiko Bachi. So each of the woods has particular strengths and weaknesses, and depending on the size, the length, the style of the bachi, you can have a Shime Bachi made from Kashi, or made from Ho, or made from maple, or made from Hinoki. A lot depends on your own personal preference and the kind of drums that you play, how big they are, how small they are, what sort of shape they're in. And it really depends a lot on the kind of music that you want to make and the sort of style that your group plays in. So for any rule of bachi, there's always an exception to that rule. So just try to keep that in mind. There's two kind of main ways to think about bachi in terms of when you're picking a pair out. You can match the bachi by weight, or you can match it by tone. And I prefer matching my bachi by tone, because I feel like, if one bachi is slightly heavier than the other, to me it's not that big of a deal. It's something that you can sort of compensate for as a player. But you can't compensate for the tone of the bachi, although that's not, again, there's an exception to that rule. You can a little bit. But in general, you have less control over the tone of your bachi than you do the weight of your bachi, because the weight is something that you can kind of adjust for by playing slightly differently. But the tone of the bachi is really important. So. And there is a surprising amount of variety even within bachi of the same wood and the same shape and same length. For example, these are all maple bachi. They're all the sort of same size, but just listen to the tone as I flick them, and you'll hear quite a dramatic difference. So there's this. Ding, 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 ding. It's quite a big difference. I could just pick all these. They're all going to be a little different. Right, this is much, much lower. So in maple in particular, there's a huge, huge range in the sort of tone of maple bachi. That's one of the sort of weaknesses, I feel like, of maple. But maple has a lot of strengths as well. So that's one thing to consider, is the tone of your bachi. We do try to match the bachi to sort of get bachi that at least sort of sound somewhat together. Like you heard with this maple pair, there's a huge, huge range and sort of tone. And you don't, as long as they're sort of roughly similar, it's okay. But you don't want to pair a super, super low pair with a really, really high pair, unless you want to use that for a particular musical effect. The other thing to pay attention with tone is it depends on the way the grain of the wood is. For example, if I flick, I'm looking at the grain of the wood, it's sort of aligned like this. You can hear the tonal difference flicking from this, where you're kind of right with the grain, or coming at a 90-degree angle to the grain. There's actually a pretty big tonal difference there. So here's flicking with the grain, and against at an 90-degree angle would be here. You hear that? I might try it with a bigger bachi. Right? So, as that's something to think about when you're playing, you want to think of how you're going to hit, in terms of how the grain is aligned, and that will change the tone of your bachi. So let's start with Chudaiko Bachi. Chudaiko Bachi, almost everybody plays Chudaiko, so almost everybody has a pair of Chudaiko Bachi. I would say the sort of most common wood for Chudaiko Bachi is the Kashi Bachi, the Japanese white oak. It's very popular because it's super, super durable and very, very strong. Will last many, 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 many years if you take care of it. And they come in 3 different sizes. They're all the same length. They're 42 centimeters, so all roughly the same length. The size difference is in the diameter and the sort of heaviness and thickness of the bachi. So we have 7.5s, which are the thinnest, lightest. We have 8s, which are the sort of kind of middle, very standard pair. This is probably the default pair. Most people will get number 8 bachi. And then we have 8.5s. And these are a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger. Depending on the size of your drum, I think a lot has to do with the size of your drum. Like this 8.5, this is going to be really too big for like a 1.4 or anything sort of, even a 1.5, depending on how thick your skin is. A 1.5 would be kind of pushing it. So you really, 8.5 is, I mean, there's quite a heft difference between an 8.5 and a 7.5, even though they're the same length. That sort of extra diameter really adds a lot of weight to the bachi. Personally, I like to play with 7.5s, but I'm weak. And I kind of go for a lighter playing style. That's just my personality and the sort of way that I want to play. I think the default is the 8, and then if you want to go sort of heavier and bigger and get a sort of more thumpier sound, you could go for 8.5s. And you know, I would say it's dependent on body type, but that's not necessarily true either. I know a girl who is just an amazing monster player. She's probably a foot shorter than me, and she plays with 8.5s and looks great and plays awesomely. So it really is more dependent on your playing style and your approach, and the kind of sound that you want out of your drum and the size of the drums that you're playing. The other popular choice for Chudaiko Bachi are Maple Bachi. And we have a couple choices here. We have 7.5s in maple, and we have 8s in maple. These are also 42 centimeters, so the same length as the Kashi Bachi. So the length is the same. The 8s are, you know, equivalent in certain terms of diameter as the 8s in Kashi, but because maple is a lighter wood, the 7.5 Kashi is roughly equivalent to an 8 in maple. And depending on whether you get a heavier or a lighter pair, you know, again, there's some variation even within the same bachi and the same wood. So 8s maple are, you know, light as I would say 7.5s in Kashi, and then 7.5s in maple are even lighter. So a 7.5 in maple, this starts to get to a bachi that will sound really good on sort of large okedo and lighter drums. So I would say this bachi, the 7.5, is really great for lighter playing, smaller drums, if you have like smaller hitaikos or smaller taiko in general. Great kids bachi. and really great bachi for okedo and some taiko set playing. So this kind of gets into a multi-use bachi. And we'll talk about multi-use bachi in a little bit later on in the video. With the 8 maples, we have 2 versions. We have ones with the kaDON logo. It's kind of lasered etched in there, so it looks really awesome. And we have ones without. That's the only difference. So you can get the logo pair or the non-logo pair. It's really up to you. Again, if you order bachi from us, we do try to at least get them somewhat matched, because with the maple bachi, you can get really, really different tones. But if you would rather have us match it by weight, we can certainly do that as well. So when it comes to Chudaiko Bachi, and you're trying to decide whether to get maple or Kashi, my answer is actually to get both. And the reason is because Kashi, it's awesome. It has a great weight to it, makes a great, great, fantastic sound, and there's no really replacing a good pair of Kashi Bachi. But they are very, very dense, very heavy, and most likely the wood is more dense than the rim of your drum. So I think if you're practicing a lot on your drums and you use Kashi Bachi every single day, it can put a lot of wear and tear on your taiko. And a lot of people say, like, oh, I like the Kashi Bachi because I've had these bachi for like 10 years. And I think, like, when I hear people say that, it's like, yes, but what do your drums sound like? Because if your bachi are pristine after all of this playing for all these years, that means that wear and tear is going somewhere else, right? And would you rather like replace your bachi often, or would you rather have to replace your drum heads often? I would much, 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 much rather replace my bachi often and keep my taiko sounding as good as possible for as long as possible, because we all know it takes a tremendous amount of effort to get taiko or build taiko and maintain them. So we really, we really want to take care of our instruments. So that's why I would suggest actually having both. Maple, it doesn't quite give you the same feel, but it's a really good bachi, and it will make a good ka sound, and it'll be a much, much, much easier on your drums. The maple, it will dent when you play kas a lot, but to me, that's kind of a good thing. That means the maple is softer than the wood of your rim, and so that sort of damage is happening to the bachi as opposed to happening to the rim of your drum. So just be a little bit careful when you're playing all the time with the Kashi Bachi. It's rough to see people who have had one pair for 10 years, but their drums sound like pancakes, like wet pancakes. You don't want that. You want your drums sounding really good, and I would much rather go through bachi often. So that's my thought on maple and Kashi when it comes to Chudaiko Bachi. The answer is actually maybe try both and do your everyday practice with maple, and then you'll find some other uses for it as well, or maybe smaller drums. And then when you really need to perform or you need to have a big show or something, then you can go to your Kashi Bachi. The last pair of Chudaiko Bachi that we have are the 42 centimeter whole bachi. These are quite a bit thicker than our maple or our Kashi Bachi. About the same length, 42 centimeters. And so it's a really great Chudaiko Bachi. Whole is even lighter than maple, so that's the reason why they're kind of thicker. They have a similar heft to like a number 8 maple bachi. Again, it's the same length, but much, much thicker. And we add that sort of thickness in order to give you the sort of heft that you need for a Chudaiko. Depending on your playing style, these can be a really, really great option. I've seen a sort of movement within taiko, at least in North America, toward playing with slightly bigger bachi for Chudaiko. And if you do that, you should really think about going to a lighter wood so you can keep making a really beautiful resonant sound as you play. but it gives you sort of a visual heft with a larger bachi. And it sounds different too. So a lot of people, these are growing in popularity, I think, for a lot of people. So if you're into that kind of style and you don't play a ton of kas, then this could be a great choice for Chudaiko. Let's talk about Odaiko Bachi. Our sort of basic Odaiko Bachi, I would say. If you're looking just to make the best sort of pure don sound from your Odaiko, you want to go with a Hinoki Odaiko Bachi. There's 3 sizes. I have the largest one here. This is 51 centimeters. It's quite a large bachi. And even though Hinoki is a very light wood, when it gets this big, it has quite a bit of heft to it. The Hinoki is really a bachi that you do not want to play ka with because it is a very soft wood. It will dent very, very easily. So it's something to consider. If you play a lot of Odaiko and you use a lot of ka sounds, then you might want to go with a hole, which is still will dent, but it will hold up a little bit more than the Hinoki pair. So the Hinoki comes in 3 sizes. There's 51, there's 48, and there's 45 centimeters. I don't have a version of the 48, but you can kind of imagine the one that would be between this one. So this is 51, and this is 45. So 45 is quite a bit smaller, quite a bit shorter, and quite a bit thinner in terms of diameter. And it really, again, depends on your playing style, depends on how big your Odaiko is. Some of us, have Odaiko that are this big, and some people have Odaiko that are this big. My preference is actually that middle pair. I like that 48 pair. So if you imagine, similar bachi somewhere in between here, that's the 48 centimeter Odaiko Hinoki Bachi. Other thing to think about with Hinoki is in terms of bachi maintenance. Hinoki, what'll happen is the grain is really beautiful and it's usually fairly straight. You want to strike like along, have the grain go along your strike. So you don't want to sort of strike your Odaiko where the strike is coming perpendicular to the grain. You want to keep everything kind of in a line. And what'll happen is the grain will start separating ever so slightly around this bevel, around the tip of the bachi. If you take a little sandpaper and you just keep that from separating, that will really, really, really elongate the life of your Odaiko Bachi. And that's important because Hinoki Odaiko Bachi, that's some of the most expensive bachi that we have. So when you get a pair, you really want to take good care of it. And just doing that little bit of sanding and paying attention to how the grain is lined up when you hit will make a big difference. The other pair of Odaiko Bachi we have is a 49.5 centimeter whole bachi. This one is it's a good sort of middle pairs. Again, it's like slightly smaller than that 51. And it's made out of whole, so it's a little more durable. Maybe the tonal quality isn't quite as pretty with because the Hinoki really gives you this really pure tone, which is beautiful. Whole, it's also very, very good wood. I don't mean to bash on whole. I love this wood, and I use a lot of whole bachi. But this is a really great bachi. It's very versatile. We use this for omiyage, and also this is one of Kaoru's favorite bachi for Miyake playing. So if you play that kind of style, or you have an Odaiko that sort of fits this, this bachi size, this could be a really great choice. This is Ho 49.5 centimeter Odaiko or Miyake Bachi. So let's talk about Shime Bachi. Again, there's a lot of variety within Shime Bachi, and there's a wide range of bachi that you can use for shime that will get a good sound out of your shime. I'm going to start with these, what I can call Shime Bachi. These really can only be used for shime. And a lot of the bachi that we'll get to in the multi-use category can also be used as Shime Bachi, and I'll mention that when we get to that point. But these two pairs, these are really like specialty Shime Bachi. And this is 32 centimeter. I have Hinoki and 32 centimeter whole. Very, very similar again, it kind of comes down to the tonal quality of the wood. Hinoki is considered finer. It's a little bit lighter. It makes a slightly more pure shime tone. It's also a little bit more expensive. So that's 32 centimeter Hinoki. If you're just looking to make the best like 10 sound, then this is probably your bachi. If you need to do 10 ket and like hit the side of your shime, this is probably your bachi. It's a 32 centimeter hole. These are also quite short, 32 centimeters, and quite thin. So some people are used to a little bit more heft in their Shime Bachi. And that brings us to our next pair, which is also made out of hole. This is a 33 centimeter, so slightly larger, a little bit more heft to it, but you know, a little heavier. With shime, you really want to pick the lightest bachi that will make the right sound from your shime. And every little bit of weight that you add to your bachi after that ends up sort of deadening the sound of your shime. There's several shime sizes. There's namitsuke all the way to gochogake. Gochogake are the sort of really, really thick, heavy shime. Most groups in the United States and throughout the world, very common is like you have nicho or sancho gake. Those are very common. So when it comes to that sort of size, you need to stay a little bit smaller with your bachi. Once you get into the sort of heavier shime, then you can play with heavier bachi. It kind of makes sense. So 33 centimeter whole shime bachi, a little bit thicker, a little bit larger. If you have slightly heavier shime or like, heavy duty rope, not rope, but heavy duty bolt tension shime, this could definitely be a great pair for you. The other thing that we have that I'll talk about here is this is also a Shime Bachi. It is a 37 centimeter Hinoki Bachi, and this is the Shime Bachi for Yatai Bayashi. So a lot of people really love playing Yatai Bayashi, and this is the Shime Bachi. So it's quite long, 37 centimeters. And it's tapered, I should say. It's tapered, so the side that you hold is thicker than the side that you play with. But it's surprisingly light. Like this is actually, it's not, oh gosh, it's really, really, really similar in weight to this 33 centimeter whole bachi. So even though it looks really big, I know, it's a video, so you can't feel the weight of this. This is actually a very, very light bachi. It will make a really great tone from a lot of shime. And if you're the kind of player that likes sort of more to hold on to as you're playing shime, this could be a really great bachi. This would be a really great set bachi. So playing taiko sets with shime, maybe some small okedo or something. This will make a really great sound. Again, hinoki, so you definitely do not want to play ka's though. So if you do play ka's, it's fine. You're not going to get a great sound, and you'll just be buying bachi a lot, which is fine. But yeah, just be aware of that. Basically, with hinoki, that's one of the drawbacks with hinoki. Not a great wood when it comes to ka. So now we're into the multi-use category and the specialty category. A lot of these bachi can be used for a lot of different applications. So, this is a category this is actually the category that I have the most to say about because I use these the most. I play a lot of taiko set, and I'm always looking for a bachi that sort of balances a lot of different components. So a lot of these bachi in this category are super, super useful, and not just for playing taiko set, but for other applications as well. So starting with our 40 centimeter whole bachi, this is the non-tapered 40 centimeter whole bachi, and it has the Miyamoto Nosuke Shoten engravement on the bachi. It's really beautiful. This is a really fantastic bachi for okedo or katsugi playing. It will make a really great sound for that sort of slung okedo style. This is also this will make a great sound for sort of any sort of size okedo until you get into the sort of larger okedo. or katsugi, but this will make a really great sound for that. And a lot of groups like these for shime as well. It has a little bit more length, but they're still fairly light, so they'll still make a really decent shime sound out of a lot of different kinds of shime. So very versatile bachi. It's really nicely weighted. Has the engravement, which is just a added bonus. This was my favorite bachi for many, 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 many years, and I went through many pairs of these. A really fantastic bachi, lots of applications. Shime, okedo, katsugi, slung okedo, really fantastic pair of bachi. Next pair of bachi is very similar to the one I just described, the 40 centimeter non-tapered engraved bachi. This is just the sort of slightly older sister pair from that pair. This is slightly longer, it's 41 centimeters, and it has a taper to it. So the handle is thicker than the playing end. It's also engraved. It's also made out of whole. And these two bachi, they share a lot of similar characteristics. It's just like one is slightly lighter than the other. So that 40 centimeter pair, that was my favorite when I was just starting on ensemble. I used that almost exclusively. And then I moved to this pair, and this is my second most recently favorite bachi. I will talk about my most favorite bachi right now, very soon. But this is also a really, really fantastic, versatile bachi. Great for taiko set playing. This has enough heft where it'll make a decent sound out of a small chudaiko as well. If you have a larger chudaiko or chudaiko with thicker skins, it's not going to do great for that. But a smaller chudaiko, 1.4 or a 1.5 that's a little bit on the lighter side, this will make a decent sound out of. Makes a good sound out of a shime, makes a good sound out of okedo. It's probably really well suited for a lot of those medium range okedo. It's a great, super versatile bachi. This is a 41 centimeter tapered, engraved whole bachi. Now we're kind of into the tapered category. This is another tapered bachi. This is the 39 centimeter Kashi bachi. Also engraved, beautiful bachi, also very versatile. This one ends up actually being quite popular because, again, it's Kashi, so super durable. It is quite a bit heavier than the other bachi in this multi-use category, though. So that's something to think about. It's going to sort of favor that sort of, if you're playing a taiko set or you have a application where you need to hit lots of different drums, this is going to favor the sort of heavier side to that. The 41 centimeter whole bachi is more in the middle, and the 40 centimeter whole bachi, the non-tapered, is probably on the light end. This represents the heavy end of this multi-use, multi-purpose category. A good thing about this bachi, though, is that it makes a great ka sound because, it's Kashi, and it lasts a super long time. Again, it has some of the same drawbacks as our Chudaiko Kashi Bachi in that it will, put some wear and tear on your drums. So just be aware of that if you're going to go for this. This isn't a bachi I would practice with on a daily basis if I'm practicing on drums. If you're practicing on a practice pad or a tire, oh yeah, go for it. But if you are playing on your drums, then just be aware that the Kashi Bachi, over a period of long time, they are heavier. So something to think about. This is still a great bachi. Again, it's sort of the heavier end of the multi-purpose bachi category. It's a little bit shorter, 39 centimeters, and that's because it's made out of this much denser wood. So in order to have it weighted right, it needs to be a little bit shorter. So this is the 39 centimeter engraved, tapered Kashi Bachi, another sort of fantastic multi-use bachi, and maybe on the heavier end of the multi-use category. Now we get to my favorite pair bachi in the multi-use category. That's because I personally designed this bachi, so it should be my favorite. It is a tapered maple, 40 centimeter tapered maple bachi, and it has a kaDON logo, which is This one, this is actually my own personal pair, and I've been playing it and using it quite extensively for the last several months. So the engravement is coming off a little bit. But this is a really fantastic pair. I do a lot of recording with this bachi because it makes a surprisingly good sound on a lot of different instruments, a lot of different drums, not just sort of taiko set stuff. This is this bachi I designed to basically have the same characteristics as the 41 centimeter tapered hole. But the one thing I don't like about the 41 centimeter tapered hole is that it doesn't make a great ka sound. I mean, hole in general, it's okay for a ka, but a lot of sort of stuff, especially in the things I'm composing these days, like actually I designed this bachi specifically for lion chant because there's a lot of ka in lion chant, so it was really important to have a good, nice, solid ka sound. But there's still, you have to be able to make a good sound out of a lot of different drums, a chudaiko, a shime, a kaDON, and so that's why I came up with this bachi. This is a 40 centimeter tapered maple bachi. It's a kaDON specialty, and my favorite bachi in this multi-use category, but only because I designed it personally. A great lion chant bachi. So if you're watching the lion chant videos and going through that course and you want a good lion chant bachi, this is a bachi for you. Otherwise, you don't have to agree with me. You can, pick one of the other ones. It's fine. This is just my favorite pair. Okay, great. Lastly, in the specialty category, we have the Chichibu Bachi. This is bachi specifically made for Chichibu Yatai Bayashi. It's hard to like sort of categorize Chichibu Bachi because, I mean, the drum that you use for Chichibu Yatai Bashi, it's really somewhere in between a Chudaiko or Odaiko. It's, like which one is it? It kind of depends on, it's like right in that sort of both category. There is that sort of ka sound at the end of Chichibu Yatai Bashi. But so again, like I said, like all rules, there's exceptions to every single rule. So this is a really fantastic bachi. We have two versions of this. There's the 37 centimeter and the 38 centimeter. A lot of people think like, what? There's only 1 centimeter difference. Why? But if you, because of how big the bachi is, and because it's tapered in the opposite direction that some of the other multi-use bachi are, so in this case, the playing side is much heavier than the holding side. So it has a very interesting sort of weight to it. Because of that, the shape of the bachi though, even though there's only a 1 centimeter difference, there is a huge difference in terms of heft. Like this one, actually this if I play Chichibu Yatai Bashi, I'll probably use this one again because I'm weak and I like a lighter bachi. But this one is quite a bit heftier. And I'm just feeling it. It has a good weight to it. There isn't really a drum. Like I could imagine this making a really good sound out of like a huge drum, and you could really lay into a drum. Actually, this one too. The sort of weight on the playing end of the bachi really gives it a nice heft. So two categories of the Chichibu Yatai Bayashi bachi. The 38 centimeter and the 37 centimeter, there's only 1 centimeter difference, but a huge difference in terms of heft. So if you're kind of lighter or smaller, or you don't want to, be really struggling to get through Chichibu Yatai Bashi, you might go for the 37 centimeter. If you're one of those people that just is gonna go for the biggest sound, or a bigger person, or a smaller person that wants to be really big, then the 38 centimeter bachi could be your bet. All right, so that's all the bachi that we have available at the kaDON store. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at info@kadon.com. We're here to answer your questions, and you can order bachi from us at any time and get in touch with us and talk taiko. We love to talk taiko. And keep watching kaDON because we will be releasing new bachi very soon. In fact, I have some ideas for for new bachi. I'm very excited, but I cannot mention it right now because what if it doesn't happen for like a month and then you're watching this video and you're like, what is he talking about? So, but yes, keep in touch with us because we're always trying to develop new things where we have your interest at heart. We want to really sort of develop new products and new bachi and new instruments and new music and new courses and new repertoire because we really, really want to see this whole taiko thing grow. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Check us out at kaDON.com.